One thing that's spoken a lot about these days is fake news. And the idea that we are being deceived by the media sources that we find around us and by the Twitter and social media accounts and Facebook and those kind of things too. What do we mean by fake news? Fake news is the deliberate intention to deceive and to present to you a narrative rather than the truth, an idea or a set of biased viewpoints because they want you to take on board those viewpoints rather than make up your own mind about things. It's a rather subtle process. It's not something which is done simply by telling you a great big fat whopping lie. It's much more sophisticated. What it means is presenting maybe one side of an argument and not the other, putting a panel together with only people with a certain viewpoint, or maybe 4 or 5 people with one viewpoint and maybe one person who's going to be ganged up on another viewpoint. It presents information in such a way that you'll ridicule one side of it and you'll respect the other side of it. It presents you with half-truths, half information, weak arguments on the one side and strong arguments on the other. It'll do this by an attitude. It'll do it by even just a typeface or a presentation or a style, all to be able to get you to take one particular view rather than to another, and to prevent you from even taking your own viewpoint on a matter and using your own critical faculties. Those who present fake news, they do so quite deliberately. It's not an accidental process. It doesn't just turn out that they made a mistake. It's planned, it's deliberate, and it's something which you have to watch out for. That's the nature of fake news. So, where do you find it? Well, I suppose the biggest culprit that's been highlighted today is social media. You would expect that places like Facebook or Twitter may abound with all kinds of different opinions, different views. Many of them are deliberately bad faith actors who wish to deliberately produce an argument or a case for you to take their point of view. They don't really mind what the truth might be, as long as they can persuade you that their view is the right one to take. However, increasingly, what I'm finding is that it's not so much the social media, the small conversations, the tiny Twitters here and there, which are the real harbingers and messengers of fake news. Where I find it most is in the mainstream media. And that's the place which you will find is most pervasive, most influential, and often most destructive in its views of society. Because it has a partisan view, it doesn't present a fair view, it has a particular agenda, it has a particular narrative that it wishes to convince you of, and what it will do is it will hide and disguise certain facts from you in order to present a one-sided view. It doesn't allow often a clear argument to be presented, doesn't provide you an opportunity to hear articulate proponents of a view which it doesn't agree with. And as a consequence of that, it becomes essentially a one-sided activist in its approach. Now, pretty well all the mainstream media that I've come across, they all have their point of view. You might have on the one side, you might have the Guardian on the left together with the BBC, and on the other side you might have the Telegraph and the Daily Mail. And those kind of papers and news outlets, they are presenting news in a particular way, not to inform you, but to form your opinion. And your opinion matters to them, because if they can influence you, maybe they can direct, in a democracy at any rate, the country in the direction which it takes. So, what are the signs of fake news? Well, often they are hard to spot, and they're much more subtle than you might think. One of the ones which I've come to suspect quite strongly is any news outlet or any media outlet which seems to present you with a fact checker, somebody who claims that they have the authority to be able to peer behind the scenes and let you know what the real truth is. they might as well label their news outlet The Real Truth. So anytime I see a fact checker on there, what I know is here there's that what they still want you to do, the aim behind that, is for you to farm out your own thinking and your own rationality and give it over to them to do on your behalf. In other words, trust us, we really will tell you the truth. However, I would rather not farm out my own fact-finding missions to somebody who pretends that they're going to tell me the truth, when in reality they still have their own agenda. So watch out for fact checkers, because they're no more than the argument from authority, and that doesn't count. What you want is an argument from reason and an argument from evidence, not an argument from a fact checker. So what does this tell us about society as a whole? What it tells me is, first of all, a negative thing. And I found this probably maybe the most difficult and depressing thing that I've seen about society is that most people seem to be easily taken in by fake news. Most people don't use their own critical faculties. Most people don't question what they're told. They have a kind of a low-resolution filter which lets everything in, and without ever thinking too much about it. They don't question what the government might say upon the virus spread. They don't question what it might be said about vaccines. They don't question what might be said about climate change. They don't question what might be said about any different topic in the world today. So, and I'm not saying that one view is right or another, but you need to come to your own mind about it. You don't need to be persuaded by other people. What do you do then? You have to check facts for yourself. You have to take things not on trust, but with a critical eye. You have to ask questions of things. You have to not accept just the narrative because so many people tell you that this is true. A whole majority of people in society can very easily be wrong, and very often have been wrong. You just look at history and you can see how whole societies have gone totally wrong, and everyone went along with it. Very often contra mundum, against the world. There might be one or two voices, and they might actually be the ones that are telling you the truth. So don't take facts for granted, even when presented by mainstream media. Don't take the facts for granted, especially when they're presented to you by so-called fact checkers. Learn to exercise your own critical faculties. Learn to check things out for yourself. Think for yourself, and don't farm out that responsibility to others. Learn to think for yourself, and you'll avoid much of the fake news.